Got another super chat. This one is from Martin Matthews. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Martin Matthews, who writes, "Hey, Louie, who gets cut if we sign Sanu? I don't think we're signing check 1212. Guess who? Mohamed Sanu. I don't see that happening. Had Sanu been cut when we were out on the market looking for Dontrell Inman, they may have went the Mohamed Sanu route before they went Dontrell Inman. But being that Inman's been here, he's already had a chance to gel and mesh with this offense and Dwayne Haskins. I think they're cool with what they have. And we've got some young guys that they're excited about that are going to ultimately end up on the practice squad, I believe. And so I think they're okay with the back end of the receiver group. Keep in mind that Kelvin Harmon is a guy that's on the mend, and he'll be back next year. Not to say that, I think, Dontrell Inman is a one-year stopgap player. I don't anticipate him being here longer than this year, but he could end up being on this football team next year. Who's to say? Same thing with Mohamed Sanu. If they were to bring him in, he'd probably be a one-year stopgap, a Band-Aid, but I don't think we need another veteran at wide receiver. I think we got enough with Inman. I think Sanu at this point of his career is probably looking to win. And I think he's going to have multiple suitors. Once teams cut down their roster, I think there'll be some teams, like a team like Atlanta, for instance. He knows the system. He's comfortable there. They know him. He knows them. If they're interested in him coming back to Atlanta, I'd be shocked if he didn't go back there. There are going to be other teams that are looking to win now, like a New Orleans, for instance, that may have a spot open at receiver, a veteran that comes in on a veteran team that's looking to win right now. Like opportunities like that, I think will be available for Sanu. I don't think him coming here is an option, really, to be honest with you. And I don't think he's a guy that really fits what we're trying to do anyway. But if you were to bring in a Mohamed Sanu, I think then obviously the first position you look at is the receiver position, because in order to bring him in, you got to get rid of someone that you were thinking about keeping. I think most fans would prefer to keep Cam Sims over a Mohamed Sanu. So, you got a young guy with potential upside and a veteran that's on the downside of his career. I don't think most fans would be willing to trade Cam Sims for a Mohamed Sanu. Again, a lot of you guys that when players get released, we need to sign him. You get caught up on trying to win this year, and you're losing sight of the big picture. Like a Fournette, that one makes more sense than a Mohamed Sanu. Why? He fits in the time frame of this football team. Leonard Fournette is only going into the fourth year of his career, okay? So when you look at Leonard Fournette, this is a young guy, 26, 27 years old, max, probably like 25, 26 years old. Okay, going into the prime of his career as a running back in this league. If, they were interested in him, and he's already signed in Tampa Bay, I'm aware of this, but if they were interested in him and they would have signed him, that would have made a ton of more sense than bringing in a 32-year-old Mohamed Sanu, which doesn't make a ton of sense. All right, and so you got to understand where this team is in their development process and where a veteran that's out there is in their career. Earl Thomas isn't interested in coming to Washington where they're looking to rebuild. He wants to go somewhere where he can win now because he doesn't have that many years left in his career. So, every time somebody gets released, we should sign them. Well, you got to look at not just the player and where they are, but you also got to look at where we are in our maturation process. And so not every guy that gets released that's a name needs to be in Washington. Because, again, this season, if this were the Jay Gruden era, then all these guys that got released, I'd be all for it because there was no direction with Bruce here and Jay here. They were just trying to win every year. Every year was a new entity. They weren't trying to build off of what they did the year before. Every year was an individual entity, and that's how you stink in this league. When every year is looked upon, and look, when I say that, I say it in this context. You have to take it with a grain of salt. There's context around what I'm saying. Every year in the NFL is an individual entity. It's a different year. But you should be building off of what you've done in the past. And you should be building off of what you did in 2014. That should help you in 2015. And what you did in 2015 should help in 2016. And so forth and so forth. Until you get to a point, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. You should be building. That's why the Seahawks are good every year. because they continue to build off of what they've done. They take players off the practice squad and they get undrafted guys and they teach them. And then by year 2 or year 3, that guy's able to contribute. And if he's good, they bring him back. If not, they cut him loose. They let him get paid somewhere else, like they did with Paul Richardson. They let somebody else pick up the price tag. All right, at the end of that, if there's a check at the end, they don't want to pick up that check. They got the most out of Paul Richardson. They let him get paid somewhere else. Look where Paul Richardson ended up. They didn't have to pay for that tab. That was an expensive tab. They didn't pay that tab. They let somebody else pick up the tab. And so that's what they do. They develop players so they're building year after year after year. They're stacking good years on top of good years. That was never the case here. And so now what you guys have to get out of the mindset of, because Jay Gruden, Bruce Allen and company, they brainwashed you into thinking, we got to go after this guy and we got to try to win this year. And we got to try to be 9-7 and we got to try to be 8-7-1 this year. All right. You got to get out of that mindset. What you should be aiming for is 11-5 or better every year. That doesn't happen overnight. You build into that. And it may not happen this year. It may not happen next year, but 3 years from now, in 2022, when we start talking about the 2022 season, if we're not 11-5 that year or better, I'm going to be disappointed. Because we should be at a point there where all these young players have experience. We've watched this process play out. We've seen the maturation process. We've watched these guys grow. And now they should be able to we should reap benefits from these guys learning and being in the same system with the same coaching staff and learning and growing and having this continuity with the staff and with the front office, having continuity with one another and picking players that fit what Rivera wants to do and all of this stuff. You'll start to see it grow. So, the flash in the pan guys that get cut and you want to sign, you got to get out of that mindset. All right. Every time somebody gets released, we should pick them up. No, we shouldn't pick them up. How about building something here with what we have? That's what we should be more focused on. Taking the players that we have and developing them. Stop stunting the growth of young players to bringing some aging veteran because you want to win an extra game or two this year. It's not worth it. Allow these guys to grow so that down the road, we can benefit and win 4 or 5 more games and possibly hoist the Lombardi. That's what it's all about. Not finding a way to go 9-7 this year and having that come at the expense of guys learning and growing and getting playing time. That's not what you should be after. You should be after the big picture. If 9-7 comes in the process of these young guys getting experience and playing, hell yeah, that's what we want. If 10-6 happens this year with Dwayne Haskins and him leading this group of young players on the offensive line and all these skill guys that are young and the defense is growing, great. That's what we want. You don't want to go out and get a bunch of veterans and bring them in here and have them stunt the growth of a Cam Sims or an AGG or a Jaron Christian. You shouldn't be looking for that. You shouldn't want Sean Davis to come in here and stunt the growth if he's not, and he's a young guy too. So that's not, you shouldn't want Earl Thomas to come in here and stunt the growth of a Troy Apke if he can actually play. We're going to find that out. Maybe he can't play, but we don't know because we haven't really seen him get an opportunity. You shouldn't want a veteran player that's not going to be here long term when we really start winning. And is going to be out of the prime of their career and not playing good football by the time we're ready to win. You shouldn't want those guys taking up valuable snaps from young players. If that's the direction you want to go in, you're missing the picture. You are thinking too small. All right. You're a micro thinker. You need to start thinking macro in terms of how this thing is. Larger, bigger picture is how you should be looking at this. You're looking at it from too small of a lens. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Martin Matthews, my man, Double M.